Yourself with Sarah Dawkins, Episode 2, with guest Jane Hogan. Hello and welcome to our first podcast on Sarah Dawkins' Heal Yourself. And my guest today is Jane Hogan. And Jane is the wellness engineer. And if I put it over to Jane, she can introduce herself because Jane knows Jane a lot more than I know Jane. Jane?
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so happy to be a guest here today. So I am, as you said, the wellness engineer. And for 30 years, I actually worked as an engineer. I was a design engineer. And then I suddenly developed crippling rheumatoid arthritis, and it had me reevaluate my entire life. I decided to, eventually to leave my engineering career. I trained as a functional medicine certified health coach. Now I'm a yoga teacher and wellness educator. And so I blend, I would say, leading edge science. So things like psychoneuroimmunology, neuroscience, quantum physics. Sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. I blend that with the ancient spiritual practices that have been around for thousands of years that work, and I help people become pain-free naturally. So I've got my own podcast, Wellness by Design, and I'm on social media teaching all the time. And I hosted a summit last year, Becoming Pain Free. And so I just love what I do. It's my passion and purpose now.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds it. Wow. Gosh, you are certainly a very active lady.
I had a little bit of when I was at a rock bottom moment with this RA, and I didn't know it was RA then. I just was in a lot of pain, and I felt like my life was, really going down the tubes. And they didn't even know what was wrong, but I could barely walk, and I couldn't, make a fist with my hands or anything like that. I had like an epiphany, a download, a voice spoke to me that said, you're going to figure this out and you are going to teach other people. So I was still in a lot of pain then, but I had this deep belief. I knew I was going to figure it out because I've been told I would figure it out. And then the other part of that is to teach people. So like I said, it's my mission now. I feel called to just speak about this and give people hope and let them understand that they can create an environment in which their body can heal.
Absolutely, because we're born healers, aren't we, Jane? It's innate, it's within us.
Yes, our bodies are brilliant. They never stop healing from the time we're born until the time we leave. They're always, always, always trying to heal.
And I don't think many people understand how well our bodies can heal if we can support them in that journey. Jane, could you share some of what you did in your healing of the rheumatoid arthritis?
Yeah, so I started off before I even knew what it was, but it was looking a bit like an autoimmune type of thing, but I didn't have a diagnosis. My family doctor is a little unusual in that she suggested that sometimes foods could be related to joint pain, which at that time, this was 2016, I had never heard such a thing, and it seemed ridiculous to me. But I was in agony, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. And my background is engineering. I'm a problem solver, right? You experiment. So I just started experimenting. And so she had told me that gluten, dairy, and sugar were very inflammatory for the joints. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stop eating them and see what happens. And I was amazed. So I was really in a ton of pain. And then within 5 days, I had a big reduction in pain. Like, I still had pain, I still had inflammation, but there was something that I could do, and this was so empowering that now I was not a victim, right? I was the person that was in control. And so that started my journey of experimentation. So that I started with food. And I realized I also started with I had this belief, but I also created like a vision around that belief. So I would envision, what would I do if I didn't have this pain? And because I sort of been into personal development and, all of that and spirituality for years, even though it's like left brain engineer type, I also had this other side to me. So I knew the power of visualization. So I started visualizing, what would I do if I wasn't in pain? I'd imagine like climbing a mountain. I imagine being on a sailboat and pulling up the sails. I imagine playing with a grandchild, like up over my head, throwing them. I don't have any grandchildren, but I was just imagining how fun this would be. And so I would think about, I would like really get a really good vision in my head and picture it and feel it and just, so it feels so good. And I kept coming back to that all the time. And I didn't realize at the time that this is like quantum physics, right? We are creating we create our reality. We create everything that's in the physical world is created first in the mind, right? So I was applying quantum physics and didn't even know it.
It's amazing, isn't it? What we've learned over the past few years, especially
Mhm.
around quantum physics. Um, and from what I understand, visualization, along with the emotion that you would
Yeah.
feel as if you were in that situation in the future, and then bringing that into the now moment, is so
Exactly.
powerful.
Yes, it's not just like, run the movie in your head, have a look at it. You
No,
gotta feel it because it's really the quantum side comes from the vibration, right? Because we are energetic vibrational
yeah,
beings. And so if we're creating a vibration of healing, excitement, and joy. Well, I mean, you don't even have to think about the healing. It's just, what is it I want? What's the feeling I want to create? If you can keep doing that, then your cells are bathed in that vibration. They're going to be reproducing in that vibration. And it has no choice but manifest, really, because that's, as long as you can keep holding it. And that's the problem when people are in pain. And I understand and I have compassion because, I was there. When you're in pain, it's hard to not think about the pain. But quantum physics tells us if we keep thinking those same patterns, we'll keep getting the same thing. So you have to, Joe Dispenza says, you have to think greater than how you feel.
yes,
And then you create a new feeling, right? So you
yeah,
can't just focus on the pain, even though I understand. And it's hard. It's terrible being in pain. And people in pain might be thinking, I don't know how to not think of pain. And
yeah,
you just gotta like create little nuggets. So I used to kind of think of it like pearls. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna think that little vision for a little bit. Or I'm gonna look at myself in the mirror and say, I used to say these things, I still do. I'm an example of what's possible. Every day and in every way, I'm healing. I mean, I had a whole string of affirmations like this, and I'd look in the mirror and I'd smile, I'd feel it, I'd say it. And in those moments, I would not feel pain. So I would think about each of those moments as being like a little pearl. And then if I could string them all together, if I could
yeah,
make a whole bunch of pearls in a day, eventually I'd have a complete pearl necklace and not have any pain. And actually, now I know that that is actually neuroscience. So I
yeah,
bring neuroscience in, right? Where you're just giving your brain something else to think about, creating a new pathway. We know that our brains aren't static. We can create new neural networks all the time. So that's what we do, create those new neural networks, stop wiring the ones for pain because all pain is really created in our brain. I mean, it's not to say the pain is in your head. It's just
no,
that that's the center of our, our control system here. So the pain starts in the head. So if we can like change the inputs that are going in there, we can change the output. And that's like, very engineering way of looking at it, but it's kind of like that. The subconscious mind is running the body. It just like works on inputs, outputs, inputs, outputs. Um, Kind of simple.
absolutely, absolutely. And the other part of that as well is when we smile, we release endorphins. So
Yes.
the act of just smiling, but actually we don't even need to just smile, do we? We can grimace, or we can put a pen or a pencil between our teeth as long as we stretch our mouths. We're
Yes, I
releasing
know.
endorphins, which helps to reduce the pain. And I
Yeah.
don't know that many people even know that. it's our own natural pain relief that we can tap
Yes.
into at any time.
Yeah, there's been studies done on that where people, like, just put the pencil in their mouth, so they're not even doing a fake smile. So they knew that the fake smile worked, but then they thought, "Is it that we're doing a fake smile, or is it just the muscles?" And they found that when you put a pencil in your mouth, so it kind of forces you to make that smile shape, that worked as well. So interesting. We're such beautiful creatures. We really are.
We are, and as you said before as well, that it all starts in the brain, and we manifest the symptoms in our body, and it's the symptoms aren't fake; they're really real, and the pain is really real.
Yeah.
But it's a manifestation, unless outside of trauma, obviously, it's a
Yeah.
manifestation of what's going on in our subconscious mind. But
Mhm.
that pain in the body is so real because a lot of people talk about oh, you're making it up, it's coming from your mind, therefore you're making it all up. Well, it might be coming from the mind, but the pain is so real in the body. It's not
Yeah.
pretend.
Right, absolutely. But it is controlled by the brain, and so we can kind of assist the brain a little bit. I mean, the other side of it though is the subconscious programming, which I can't I went through a lot. I learned a lot on my journey. I would get, I started with the food and I got a little bit better and I plateau, and then I tie in other things like, okay, sleep. Oh, okay, I got to prioritize sleep. All right, I'm going to do that. And meditation and and movement, like getting, as I had to just do chair dancing in the beginning because I could hardly walk.
Yeah,
So I did all these things and I would get a bit better and I plateau, and then then, be something else, get a little bit better and I plateau. And I was like, there's something I'm missing. And, part of it was the brain work, which really helped. Part of it was really understanding that I had programming from when I was very little that had me kind of in a stress state constantly inside. I didn't have major trauma. I had minor trauma. I had a sibling that teased me. It sounds like like wimpy little you, but in my little girl head, that was traumatic. I didn't feel safe, and so I created programs in my head to protect me: perfectionism, people pleasing, busy, busy, busy.
yeah,
All of these things. I mean, I did engineering because my father is an engineer and that's what he wanted me to do. So, I mean, really, I had a whole lifetime where I was following this program. So I had to do some work on reprogramming that subconscious mind. And so that was really where the work was. And had I realized it, I mean, when you're in inflammation, when you've got major inflammation in your body, like, you got to get that fire out. So yes, the foods and all those things really help. But if you want lasting and complete um, restoration of your vitality, then you have to work on the body, the mind, and the spirit. We're
yeah.
not separate, right? All of it together. And that includes the subconscious programming and just really understanding the magnificence of who you really are and how powerful you are. We haven't really been taught that. We've been taught, especially when you get an illness, like, all your power goes to someone else to tell you what to do or take this or take that, and you're powerless. What I teach people is to become the one that's empowered, because really, who else can create that healing state in your body but you? It's you that has to do it. Those vibrations that I was talking about, no one else can do that. Someone can help, right? You can go see someone, you can do some healing, sound therapies, or, different things like that. And that's all really lovely. But for it to last, you have to do the work.
Absolutely. And it's that emotional healing, I think, is the last jigsaw in the puzzle,
Yeah.
because you can do so much with other types of healing, the physical and the
Mm,
mental and the spiritual. And you can feel so much better. But
yeah.
until you do that emotional healing, you go in there and find really what the crux of that problem is and
Yeah.
work with that. As you've said, it's subconscious programming, and it starts when we're so young, because we just absorb everything that we see and hear,
Yes.
and take it on board without judgment, and it just sits in our subconscious mind, And then we tend to run our lives on autopilot from those traumas and from everything we've seen and heard in our younger years. So, and that plays out in our lives. And I don't think many people are aware of their subconscious programming because we tend to run our lives on autopilot. We just do things
Yeah.
because we think they need doing. And it's only when we stop, isn't it, that we and go inwards and see, what is it that I really need to heal? What is the crux, the root cause of these symptoms? You know, I've healed
Mm.
so many symptoms, but like when you plateau or you get so far and it just stops, period, then you've got to go deeper and
Yeah.
find that root cause. And like you say, it doesn't have to be a massive trauma. It
Mhm.
can be being teased. It can be just, something at school and somebody being prioritized in front of you. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be physical or abusive. It can be something really little, but it's how we perceive that when we were those young children. And we hold on to that, don't we?
So, oh yes, so true. I interviewed Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's the author of The Biology of Belief
Yeah.
for my summit. Really interesting conversation with him, and actually, it's on my podcast now. But he says that we most of our subconscious beliefs are formed before the age of 7, and lots of people have said that. It's not just him, and that we're operating 95% of our behaviors are coming from that subconscious programming. The opinions and beliefs of others are not even our own.
I
They're
know.
not even our own. But yet we just we had to accept it because we were just little,
Yeah,
right? Our survival depended on being accepted in this tribe. And so
yeah,
we created behavioral adaptations as a way to cope and be safe. And then we've hung on to these behavioral adaptations our entire life. Like I mentioned, perfectionism,
yeah,
people pleasing
yeah,
for me, right? Um, and that's just some of them. I see that a lot though in people with pain. A
yeah,
lot of people pleasing, perfectionism, over giving, right? Always giving for other people and not really giving for themselves, because we think, well, that's what I got to do to be safe, because that's the behavioral adaptation created when when you were like before the age of 7. So yeah, so we can reprogram the subconscious mind though, which is wonderful.
yeah.
It's doable. It takes work, but it also I've done a lot of work with, and I teach now, the energy codes by Dr. Sue Morter.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
so it's about not getting into that story all the time. In the beginning, I did that. Like I was like, what? Why did this happen? And I had to go back and
Mm,
review everything. And maybe some of that was okay because I had to forgive, right? I did, because I was carrying some resentment there. And that feeling of resentment is one that also contributes to pain. I mean, really, any
yeah.
negative feelings can, or dis-ease in the body. Um, but the going over the story over and over again and trying to figure it out with the brain is not always helpful,
No.
especially if it's very emotional. It can re-trigger, and just, I talked about the neural networks in the brain earlier. It just can keeping those strong, right? So that's not what we necessarily want. So what I've learned is understanding where we're feeling stuff in the body. So in other words, I had no idea that I was pretty much going around my whole life clenched in my belly. Had no idea I was clenching there, because that was just normal for me. Or I remember doing Tai Chi years ago, and the instructor always saying, Jane, relax your shoulders. And I'd be like this, they are relaxed, because that was my normal, right?
Yeah,
Because I just held all this tension here. And I mean, even when you think about our language, the weight of the world on your shoulders, right? Pain in the neck,
yeah,
all of that kind of stuff. We hang on to it. So really, to notice in your body, where are you tight? Where do you have the pain? Where do you notice, a lump in the throat, or constriction, like tightness across your chest, or sadness somewhere? Where are you noticing these things? And then, so that is really emotions that haven't been released. And
yeah,
so we want to give that area, wherever you're feeling it, wherever your body's calling you, give that area like loving attention, like hugging from the inside, like as if it was a pet that you loved or a small child that needs help, calling your attention. I mean, that's really what it is. It's calling your attention. So to do that, like, and imagine, you could imagine breathing through it, but in a very like loving way, kind of, I've got you. I've got you now. I'm not going to forget you. I know you're there. I'm here for you. That kind of feeling. And to keep doing that until it kind of until it releases. So I find that a super powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I pick up on a couple of things you've said there?
Sure.
First of all, do you think that, from what I see with the clients I have, I see they've got the people pleasing behavior, they've got the perfectionism, but they haven't acknowledged it until I bring it out to the front, and then it's like they're still running on the autopilot,
Yeah.
unconscious behavior. And then when I bring it out, why do you think you need to please people? And they're like, what do you mean? Well, you're putting other people first, and you're adapting your behavior to please others to fit in. Is that what? Do you think that's where you're at? And sometimes they don't even know that they've adapted their survival skills to produce that behavior. And once you highlight that, they can then see potentially where that's come from, either in that session or the next session, and then start
Mhm.
working through that and understand why they've changed their behavior.
Mhm. So beautiful, Sarah, because that is the beauty in working with someone because you can't there's a expression by I think it's Mary Morrissey. She says, "You can't see the picture when you're in the frame." You just can't. That's why you need like someone that can be that you can trust, but who's neutral. It doesn't
Yeah,
sometimes it can work with someone that's close to you, but it's often really helpful when it's someone neutral to be able to reflect back to you, here's what I'm seeing. And then it's like, oh, right, I can see it now. I mean, people don't know. I didn't really realize that I was. I mean, I knew I liked to do things well. I took a lot of pride in it.
yeah,
Um, so but I didn't really realize that it was an adaptation. That's the thing. I just thought that's just the way I am.
yeah.
But it's not. It's not the way we are. It's just a behavioral adaptation that we created and we can change behaviors. So that's where like a coach like you or I come in to help people see it and then take like little baby steps to help them begin to change behaviors.
Absolutely, but also as well, instill in them that they have the power of choice. They
Mhm.
can choose to change that behavior and change that belief. Because I think a lot of people that I see have got a belief system and they're not even aware of where it came from. So once we highlight, what is that belief? Where's it come from? They can then look at that and does it still serve them now, or can they choose to have a different belief and change their behavior and attitudes
Mhm.
towards their whole life?
Yeah. Sometimes I find it helpful for people to sort of be guided back to something like that. Like in this time when you developed that, could you like what would you say to that young version of yourself? What you can tell them something different, right? Here's instead of that, how about how about that you are always loved or whatever it is for that person. So sometimes I think that can help and I have this like a little picture of myself when I was a little girl here and I like look at her often and I think I say I've got you now, everything's going to turn out all right, that kind of thing. I think is helpful. You can through some different therapies and stuff, they say like you can literally go back and change your past because here's the funny thing. I think something like our memory is like not even 60% accurate, our memories. So, we're making a lot of it up anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and I've read somewhere, I can't remember who said it, that every time we go back and access a memory, we actually change that memory a little bit from what
Yes.
it was. So the more times we go back and access it, the more we're moving away from what actually really happened. And like you alluded to, I don't think it's wise to keep going back and reliving that. I like to take away, what did it feel like, or what were your thoughts around it? Let's not go into the detail and minutiae of it, but what can we do and how can we move that forwards? Because I think another big part of it is not what just happened, but the story we tell ourselves about it. And like you were
Yes.
saying earlier about you weren't a victim to the pain, I think it's so easy to put ourselves in. I'm not a lover of that victim term, but it's so easy to put ourselves in that field of victim, where in actual fact we're just really running on the survival skills that we learnt and maladaptation over
Mhm.
the years. So it's about understanding those survival skills that we've learnt and what effects they're having on our body now, and how we can learn to step outside of that and change. Again, a big part of healing, that I believe is our whole mindset and belief system around why we've developed the symptoms that we've developed, and what we can do to change that.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a beautiful quote by, Peter Crone. Are you familiar with him?
No, not really.
He's called the mind architect, and I mean, he helps, like, a lot of, professional athletes and things like that, with the mind, but he also helps people in pain. But he's got this great quote that I absolutely love. He says, "Life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free." So
Okay.
isn't that just so perfect? So,
Yeah.
if you've got an illness in your body, well, that's obviously you're not that free then, right? So this is revealing to you where you're not free. This circumstance is revealing to you that you're not free somewhere. So in the end, I kind of ended up seeing it as a gift, and that it's happening for me. This is
Yeah.
happening for me to help me be more free. And oh my goodness, it's so much better not being that perfectionist and the people pleaser and worried what people think all the time and clenched belly, like all that. It's just so much better now.
Yeah.
So I see it all as a big gift now because I wasn't free before, and now I do feel very free. So it's
Yeah.
um it's hard to see it in that light when you're like lying down and in pain,
Yeah.
but there is always a gift for you. There is a gift.
Absolutely, yes, and through my own healing as well, I found that gift, and like yourself, actually, my gift was a suicidal depression, but actually
Mm.
that took me out of my role as a nurse and into my role as a holistic health coach, having healed a multitude of health problems like yourself. I ended up walking away from nursing to help people to heal like you have, and I think a lot of healers and coaches who deal in healing have actually gone through something that's changed their life trajectory, and they've decided they want to help other people and stepped into those roles as coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, I think pretty much everybody who's in the holistic space is there because they were seeking answers that they weren't finding elsewhere. And so I see it over and over again as well. And look at this, you and I wouldn't be talking right now if you hadn't gone through what you went through and I hadn't gone through what I went through. We wouldn't be here having this conversation that's now inspiring other people to take a different path and to really step into their magnificence and power, because this whatever you're going through is here to teach you. And it's so much better when you understand how powerful you are, instead of feeling like, I wouldn't say I was like labeling myself as a victim, but yeah,
Yeah,
I had those thoughts like, why me, or why is this happening? Those are victim thoughts, right? I'm not saying I'm a victim here. I wasn't using that language, but
no.
I definitely felt powerless,
Yes,
right?
yeah, and it's easy to feel victim to the circumstances at that time,
Yeah.
But like you say, there is always a gift in that, and it's difficult to see it at the time. In fact, I couldn't even see it at the time because I was just in such a dark place.
Yeah.
But looking back now, I wouldn't be where I was now if I hadn't have gone through that, and probably yourself the same too.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's, I see it as one of the best things that happened to me
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
kind of funny. I wouldn't have thought that at the time, but
No,
that's where I am now, and I really see now that it brought everything together, like, my years of personal development and my years of, like, reaching into spirituality, and then the years of, even logical thinking and very left brain work. It kind of all came together for me, and now, like, it's just such a beautiful path to look back at it and see, oh, look at all these breadcrumbs that brought me here. It's couldn't have been better.
absolutely. And not only that, it gives us understanding of what people going through the same things and the same health problems and disease that we've been through. We can come from that from a place of knowing because we've been there. We totally understand what that feels like. I
Hmm.
mean, obviously everybody's got their own take on it, but at the crux of it, the symptoms will be the same.
Hmm.
And that feeling of being disempowered will be the same.
Hmm.
So we can help them from A, the knowledge that we've gained from going through it, and B, the understanding that we've gained whilst we were
Hmm.
in it.
And the understanding that, to let go of the past, to forgive,
Yes.
and it might, like, some people may have, like, a level 10, forgiveness that they've gotta work through, and other people may have, like, a level 1 of forgiveness, but if you're carrying it, then that's creating, stress in your body, and when you're in that state of, the stress state of the nervous system, your body can't heal. It just can't heal. It's got to get into the parasympathetic state. That's the only state where healing happens. So you don't forgive for someone else. You're not letting anyone off the hook. You do it for yourself because, like, it's on you. It's on you to heal. So if you, there's a great quote by, I think it's Anne Lamott, who said, Not forgiving is like taking rat poison and hoping the rat's gonna die," right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. You have to find the place in you that allows forgiveness, and it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't mean someone's off the hook. It's just, I find really helpful is to say they did the best they could with their set of circumstances, their life history, and where they were at the time. And their knowledge, like, that's just where they were. That's so that really helps. And also to say, well, if I had been through exactly their set of circumstances, I would have done the same thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like not putting yourself above someone or anything like
No.
that. It's just whatever works for you to let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. And the forgiveness is it's the gift we give to ourselves because
Mm.
it's a huge key in healing as well, isn't it? And
Oh,
sometimes it's not just about forgiving the other person. Sometimes we have to forgive ourselves for
yeah.
not having the skills and knowledge to deal with the situations that we found ourselves in at those times. And understanding, as you said, we're all the culmination of our life's experiences, and we have no idea what other people have been through. And for somebody to do whatever it was that they did to us, they must have gone through maybe something similar, maybe something even worse, and we will possibly never ever know. So if we can find compassion for ourselves to be able to forgive and let go of what they did to us. And I know a lot of people struggle with forgiveness, and I say to them, if you can't forgive the person who did what they did to you, can you forgive the soul of that person? So that you're able to find some way to forgive, to be able to let that go. Because unless we forgive, we're still carrying that weight around with us, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it will block healing. It really will. I think you're right about sometimes people feel that they can't forgive themselves, and they may be carrying around shame, those kinds of feelings as well, and I think to get again to go back to that younger version of yourself and know that they did the best they could with what they knew at the time, right? It's just we know that because that's what we did, right?
Yeah.
That is what we did. So
Yeah.
it is the best that we could have done at the time with what we knew. So yeah, forgiving yourself is also tough. And we don't really know about karmic agreements. Like, what kind of agreements did we have before we came here? Maybe we had an agreement that this person, our perpetrator, was, we had an agreement, you're going to do something so that I can have this level, forgiveness experience that I need
Yeah.
for my soul development. I mean, maybe that's it. And that, I find that is very freeing for people if when they kind of look at it that way. We don't have all the understanding here as little humans, or our spiritual being having this experience in this human body. We don't have all the knowledge in our head right now, so there could be other agreements we just don't know. And I find we don't know, but if you can accept that, and if it gives you some relief, then use it. Why not use it? It's just better for you to do that than to keep hanging on to the lack of forgiveness or resentment or
Yeah.
shame or whatever the feelings are.
Yeah, and I can't remember where I read it, but I did read somewhere a while ago actually that along the karmic and soul contracts, that our souls make the contract before we come into this body, and before we come into this body, they say things like, I'll always love you, and when we come back to Earth, we're not going to remember each other, but our souls will know each other, and we're going to go through these experiences because we have something to learn. But know that we're doing it from a place of love, which at the time, it sounds incredibly difficult to believe that what's happened to us has come from a place of love. But I do believe our souls are here to learn something. I really do. And we have no idea what our soul contract, because we just don't remember, do we? What
Mhm.
our soul contracted to do in this earth plane.
We don't. And something that Dr. Sue Morter said, I find very powerful, especially when like young kids are involved, because it's really hard to accept that an innocent child uh, had an experience that, like, a hugely traumatic experience. But coming back to this soul contract, one thing she said is that, let me see if I get this right. Big souls take on big projects and they get started early. It makes
Yeah,
me weep to think about it.
yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, so that might help some people. That might help
yeah,
some people. I hope
yeah.
it does.
Yes, yeah, because there's some awful things happening in the world to really nice people, and it does make you wonder, doesn't it? But the
Yeah.
flip side of that is, as we've both said, is our soul contract. Our soul knew what we were coming into in these bodies on this plane and how this life would play out, and it agreed to it. So
Mhm.
we have to remember that when we see or hear of things that we don't really resonate with us very well.
Yeah. I mean, if it can bring peace, like, ultimately, if we are faced with dis-ease in our body, what we need to cultivate is peace. Is really what it's about, like
Yes,
peace, love. And because that's how we heal in that situation. So all of these tools that we're talking about are ways that we can create that peace
yes,
so
yeah.
that we can heal.
Yeah, because as you said, stress actually causes inflammation, and inflammation is the root cause of all disease. So when we find the peace, we go into that parasympathetic
Mhm.
nervous system, we get that peace, and we heal. And our body just heals because that's what it does innately, that we are
Yeah.
born to heal.
And it's just trying to heal. It's trying to heal, and the pain or the disease is a call for help, that it needs our help.
Yeah.
And when I think if we can see it in that way, it's well, then we can become the ally, right? We can become the ally and be the one that's leading then and helping the body heal. But it will keep healing. It will keep trying to heal.
Well,
no matter what.
always, always. And it's our job to support it in its own healing process.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, Jane, it's been fabulous talking to you. We've had such an amazing conversation and covered a whole range of things.
We have, we have. We're very aligned, I think, in our thinking after everything we've been through. And you've talked to so many people, and I've talked to so many people, and sort of put all these puzzle pieces together and think, this, we can see now there's something more going on. And if we can see the gifts, and if we can become our body's ally, then we can begin to create healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jane, would you like to tell the listeners where they can find you?
Sure. Thank you so much. My podcast is called Wellness by Design. And as you know, we're designing the person we need to become so that healing can happen, is what that's about. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, as at Jane Hogan Health. My website is thewellnessengineer.com. So if they want to go there, I've got some a nice set of audio files they can download to help create the peace in the body. So that's available there if they want that. So there we go. And my YouTube channel as well is at Jane Hogan Health.
Oh, wonderful. And I shall put all your details in the details below so people can find you from there.
Thank you so much.
Jane, it's been lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Oh, Sarah, it was an absolute pleasure. You're helping me on my mission. And thank you to the people that are watching and listening, because I'm here for you. That's I was told I'm here for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye for now.